pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If we could remain standing and take a moment to remember our service, men and women. Thank you. We're going to go into executive session. I can tell you that it will not last long. And then we'll be back and start the meeting from here on. So if I could have a motion to go into executive session.
I'll make that
By
motion.
Trustee Ramus, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Trustee Livesey, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. So, when we do the pledge here, and we remain standing for our service people, I try to also remember, or if I even know, it doesn't mean I even know, any local residents that have passed away, just to honor them. So there were two, and they were both unexpected, very, very unexpected. And that's Jim Doonan, who lived in Ondure Park. And most of you might not, maybe I'll be the only one in the room that knows this fella. I think he's like 44, he went to school here, played football. Joe Jenkins, very young, massive heart attack. So let's just take a moment and remember that. Thank you. Anyone have any comments on agenda items? Okay. Just a couple of comments, positive comments. Yesterday was the first annual softball game between the Hollow Falls Police Department and the Fort Montgomery Police Department. And it was over at Roe Park. It was a great game. This year, the Hollow Falls Police Department won. It was a very, very good game. So even though there was a winner of one of those teams, I will tell you that the community won. And the reason the community won was because maybe a year ago, a lot of the departments weren't even talking. So here it is a year later. We've worked very hard, this administration, since we've gotten back, to bring those departments back together again. And I can say that we're well on the road to doing that. I had a lengthy conversation with the chief of Fort Montgomery, Town of Highlands, and he reminded me that we used to work together. I still don't remember that, but that's what he said. That was a long time ago. So the board is very happy with the softball game and what it meant. It meant more than a ball game. So Chief, thank you. Relay that to the men and women. Thank you. I want to thank Michael Nenardowicz, who on his own repaired the flagpole at the Senior Citizen Center and also gave us a new flag. So you'll see it down there. It's beautiful. Gene Woodruff made quilts, red, white, and blue quilts. Gave them to me to bring over to the Veterans Hospital, which I'll do. Mary Jane in the News of Highlands, I want to thank you and your paper and the administration of your paper for covering everything that you cover. It's quite a bit. You're not a one-man show, you're a one-woman show.
Thank you.
And your reporting on the school issues was spot on, and I appreciate that. Thank you. And last but not least, beautification. Some folks in here know that when I go to other communities, I take out, now that I know how to operate my cell phone, I take pictures of hanging baskets, baskets on the sidewalk, gardens in the middle of Main Street, all that good stuff. Because I see it and I say, God, why can't we be? Why can't that be us? Well, I can report to everyone tonight that for me, I no longer have to take pictures because now we are. People will come here now and take pictures of what the beautification committee has done, along with the garden club and other volunteers. Please, it's worth it. Go up to their gate and ride south, or go down south and ride north, and look. You will be amazed at what was done. They're hanging baskets, there's sidewalk planters, there's now flower boxes on storefronts. The two-tier garden, the three-tier garden. Pretty soon we're going to be taking down some dead trees on Main Street and pruning others. So again, I'm very happy. We now are what I see other communities be. So thanks to everyone that's involved in that, including the Highway Department. They've done a lot of work to make this happen also. The art walk has been spoken about many times and should be, and it's beautiful out there. I hope it continues. I'm sure that it will, because it's a positive. Okay, thank you. New business. I'd like to have Dr. Shiboy and whoever else would like to speak. Now would be the time.
Perfect, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you to the entire village board and the entire community for allowing myself, as well as the members of the board and the administrative team, to come to give a brief overview of our proposed capital project, which is pending referendum on 17 October. By now, I think the majority of the community has seen a flyer that we sent out, an 8-page flyer. I'll leave a few of those in case anybody has not seen it. But this project has been designed over the past couple of years. Since I've been here in May of 2015, we've been looking at facilities. We had a building condition survey, which led to a 5-year plan. The facilities committee then focused on the needs at O'Neill, having just proposed and now completed improvement at the intermediate school. We identified some issues that were related to health and safety, some issues related to instruction, some issues related to facility upgrades and ADA upgrades, as well as some issues related to our athletic field upgrades. The project, and I'll address any questions from the village board. The project has a heavy price tag. It's $23.4 million. But this year, or actually next year, 2019, the district is fortunate that we have debt service falling off, and that means that we can offer this proposal at zero additional impact on the taxpayers for this proposal. Zero additional impact. In fact, we're not even taking all of that additional debt that's falling off. So our debt service is approximately $788,000 right now. Mr. Mayor?
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I want everyone to hear this.
Sure, I'm sorry.
Okay, so, yeah, stand like that, but the microphone is actually in the...
Should I move closer?
That would be fine,
Okay.
yeah.
So again,
It's important.
Yep.
We here can hear you,
Sure.
but I want the folks at home.
We have about $788,000 worth of debt service currently. With this project, we will have $592,000 of debt service. So we will be able to do this project at no additional impact on the taxpayers. We get 73% aid on every dollar that is spent in this project. Every aidable dollar, and about 95% of those dollars in this project are aidable. We can do this project because we have $4.5 million in capital reserves that we can apply to it. We need referendum from, a positive referendum from the voters, and we can do this project at this time and address a lot of the facility needs at James O'Neill High School for zero additional tax dollars from a community that is already stressed tax-wise. And the school board is actually aware of that, I'm aware of it, our business official, our assistant superintendent are absolutely aware of that, assistant superintendent for business. Again, I imagine that the village board has received this, certainly would love to address any questions that the board has or if the board opens it up.
I have one quick question. How long did it take us to pay down that 23 million that you're talking about? About how many years?
How many would it take?
Well, previously, the one that is, we're done with
The
now.
debt's falling off. So
Yeah.
debts
It
are,
wasn't 23 million.
no, it wasn't that amount
Okay.
then. But debt, you're usually bonding for 15 to 18 years,
Okay.
so about 15 years. And that's what we're anticipating doing for this. Bonding for about, I say about, because the first 2 years, until you complete the project, you can't actually sell bonds for that. So you use what's known as,
Okay.
I'm sorry, use what's known as a bond anticipation note. And we'll be able to go out with a ban or a bond anticipation note for the first 2 years during the construction phase. And once that happens, then we sell the bonds, and then the state aid starts flowing. But we have the ability to do that at zero additional cost. And that's not our numbers, that's our financial planners. We have experts who do that. And we have a very high bond rating, and that's what they're telling us we can do.
Are you exhausting all of the reserves, or will you hold back some money in reserve?
So we currently have about $4.6 million in there. This is applying 4.5.
So you're only leaving 100,000?
Of the capital reserve that we currently have, that's correct. That's
But we
correct.
plan on putting more into it.
Our
We
goal-
have to,
right.
truly, because we couldn't empty it out and not, that wouldn't be very
Right.
fiscally responsible. So we have some that we will be putting in before we take that out. We're saving to put some in there. So, because you never know, if an emergency came up, we'd have to have money in there.
Right, and the important thing to remember about anything that goes into a capital reserve is it takes a referendum to get it out. So, sometimes it's better to have a little bit extra in our fund balance, and that way if an emergency comes up. But if we, again, Denise Sedera is our assistant superintendent for business. She is penny wise, and she is pound wise. Okay, so if we underspend our budget, a little bit of that money can go into that capital reserve. So, Charlie,
Yeah,
I'm
I
sorry,
don't
Ms.
want to take up
Martinez.
too, oh, that's okay. As you're very much aware, the two turf surfaces have been raising some controversy. Aside from the issues about health concerns, some people feel that the second field was unnecessary, it should just be one, and they're extremely expensive.
Mhm.
If people go to the polls and are led by that desire not to spend $8 million on AstroTurf or whatever it is,
Artificial turf.
and vote no, what happens if the vote doesn't go the way you want it to?
So that's a question that we will have to address on or around October 18th to begin to. The board would have many options that it could, the board could put up a revised capital project at a later time. It certainly could do that. The board could try to deal with our facilities needs out of the general fund, which is very difficult to do when we're talking about a 2% tax levy cap. There's any of a number of things.
You're down to 2%, I thought you were over 4.
Well, the formula, it's formula. The state calls it a 2%.
Yeah.
We all know that it's not really. For some school districts and municipalities, it's under zero. It's negative. So,
As is the village.
yes. So there's still options. The board has not really begun to dig into what it would do that happens because we are hoping that this will pass.
But I do want to say one thing about it. There are things that I feel very strongly about that we can't not work on. For example, the condition of the blacktop in the back of the school, it's a danger. It's a safety danger. There's potholes of where kids have, and our guests that come to games have to walk through that. If we have to address that. So if this capital project doesn't get approved, we're gonna have to find a way to do it, and once it's not done through the capital project, it's not aidable. So that's more tax dollars that we need to take to get some of this stuff
But
done.
going back to Frank's comment, how quickly could you do a revised and get another vote?
So my guess is that we probably wouldn't hit another opportunity for a referendum until, at best, May. at best, because it does take time to go back and revise all these things. Then you have statutory requirements for getting notifications out. It does take a fair amount of time. I don't want to hazard a guess, but that would probably be, it would certainly be between February and May. I certainly wouldn't be 2 weeks later or 3 weeks later. You know, in a school district, if a school budget goes down, it's about 45 days because you have all your notices and your requirements that you have to get out. So it's a tough question to answer as far as timeline right now.
Just a question on the fields. What was the decision to have two of them? Is one of them going to be like the game field and the other one is the...
So it's a great question. Currently, we have and again, any of the board can certainly weigh in on this. We have the Western Field, which is out in front of James Emile High School. It's currently the practice field.
Okay.
The goal would actually to be able to have 2 regulation play surfaces. So we would be able to play 2 contests at once, JV, varsity at the same time, if that was the case. Soccer and football at the same time. You know, today we had a JV football game. We could play a varsity soccer game at the same time. The main advantage to turf in general, artificial turf, it's all turf, natural turf versus artificial, is that ability to play on it earlier in the season, later in the season, and longer each day. The recommendations for playing on a natural turf field are no more than 10 hours a week because the stress that it puts on the natural fibers. This would give the district the ability to host some tournaments for soccer. You know, we wouldn't be able to host a football tournament because we just have parking for that. But soccer, we would be able to bid for some of these regional type semifinals for the region, not for the whole state, because again, parking and things like that become issues. But we'd be able to play 2 contests at once. Or our JVK or our town rec program could actually be playing and practicing at the same time that we have a varsity contest or JV contest.
Well, another question I have is, for myself being a general manager of a very large facility, if I enlarge my facility, the concern of can the maintenance crew handle this?
Great question. So if I may just digress before I answer that, a lot of these questions are on our website under our frequently asked questions page. Because what we have right now are 2 gentlemen named Steve who maintain the painting, the mowing, the trimming of our entire facility. They're 2 grounds people. We do not anticipate an increased need for personnel for this because our goal would be in the first year or 2 to have our turf installers help us to maintain those fields, train our people with the experts so that they will be able to maintain these fields. Our mowing will decrease significantly just right there. The amount of time that it takes our Steves, they're both named Steve, they're really hard workers, but the amount of time it takes our Steves to maintain our fields, to stripe our fields, to mow our fields, that is a lot of time that will not have to. This will have permanent sewn-in lines on it for soccer, for American football, boys and girls lacrosse. Both fields we anticipate will be striped the same way. So none of that restriping, none of that mowing. There is maintenance on the field. You have to condition the infill a little bit. It's about once every 2 or 3 months you've got to go in and kind of stir up that crumb rubber and then just spread it out again. But it's a different level of maintenance, and our goal is to get our people trained to do that.
One more question I have, and I'm going to probably get a couple strikes on this. I attended the middle school. One thing that I've noticed, and I think it's beautiful, I think the project was tremendous for the children there. I think it's thumbs up. But I've noticed 20-year-olds play basketball there. And I think you all may know that too. Recently the nets were all ripped down and they just reinstalled new nets. You're saying that this may be hosted to other, how are you going to do that, like on insurance concerns?
So any facility user who uses our facilities has to organize. I mean, and we've been actually working with the chief for people who aren't authorized, because if people aren't authorized, that does create liability for the district. So to move those people along from our facility, but we have JVK that uses our field.
Right.
We have certificate of insurance for that.
Okay.
That insures the district's interest and protects the district's interest as well as the district's assets. Town Rec, obviously, we have an intermunicipal agreement with Town Rec that allows for that. We have proof of insurance for that. Any facility user that uses the fields, an organized group, has to provide us with that same level of insurance that names the district as insured on those.
Okay.
Thank
I
you.
have one more.
Yep.
I'm going to leave sports for a while. The science rooms need to be refurbished because they haven't been done since 1970. Is that correct, my understanding?
71.
Okay, 71. My concern, and others who have talked to me about it, is if we're going to give credit for advanced courses, and STEM is coming along, and others changes in science, are our kids going to be able to compete without those renovations?
So, Andrew, you can answer this. I don't
Yeah,
mind
whoever wants
stepping
to
into
answer,
that.
it's
I fancy myself an instructional leader as well as a capital project discusser. So I will say this. Our teachers do a great job with what they have. And what we have found is that the skills that we are, all schools are still teaching our kids are skills that 30, 40 years ago were valuable. It's learning content, math, social studies, science, English. And to really get to a mindset where kids are doing science, like science is being done in universities or science is being done in industry, we need to move to a more flexible seating model. We need to have systems and structures and furniture that match those needs. Our facilities, I mean, and October 7th, there will be another walkthrough, so I do invite certainly the village board and the entire community. Our facilities have been brought up to legal code with the health and safety. So we have eye wash stations, and we have, the emergency showers. And I want you to come and see them. And I invite you to go to look at our website to see how we retrofitted some of these things. As we're talking about flexible seating, you can't move in some of these rooms. The furniture is literally fixed. The rooms were, many of them designed as double rooms. So you've got two elevated an elevated teaching station, an elevated teaching station. That is, it's kind of a waste in many regards of some of that space because the teacher doesn't sit on that part of the room and teach. What they do is they give some instruction and then the students collaborate. They give some instruction, and the rooms just do not allow for that flexible seating, that flexible, teaching, and it doesn't allow for that collaboration, that problem solving, that creativity that our kids need.
The other thing, as a retired administrator, that 73% is a gem.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
And I remember having to wait, would fluctuate, go up, go down. So I think voters have to take a look at that. That 73% is a great gem for any community.
It's a perfect time for this.
It is a perfect time.
It's a
And it might
perfect
not
time
come
for
back
this. It's
for a
not,
while.
I don't think it is
Yeah,
going
right.
to come back for a while.
Plus-
And the one point that we touched on a little bit that I do want to make sure too, that it, to me is very important, is bringing our school up to code for ADA.
Yep.
The locker rooms, the bathrooms, the toilet rooms are not wide enough and they don't
Right.
need official code. The showers, they have to step up to get into the showers that we don't use anymore anyway. So I think it's really important. I don't want to, our athletic facilities are very important. I don't want to, it's not about that. It's about it, but it's about so many other things.
Right.
It's about keeping our buildings that we own, our capital assets, investing in them because it invests in the future of our town, of our village, and of our community, and most importantly, for these children that are going to be coming through these schools. At the end of the day, that's what it's all about.
And what the voters choose to do on the 17th of October will determine the facilities' quality and direction for that building and probably for our district for the next 20 to 25 years.
Okay,
Thank you.
anything else from the board?
So there's no guarantee that the 73% would still be the match a year from now?
Or 2 years from, that's correct. So right now, it's 73%. That is our aid rate. If we lock in and we get that, that's what we will be expecting to see flow. And, some people have had the question, well, couldn't the state stop building aid? School districts throughout the state will be bankrupt, all of them, because they all receive building aid. Whatever their percent is, they all receive some building aid. So,
Thank you.
thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you to the board. I appreciate it.
Debbie, you want to give a shout out about homecoming? Nice and loud.
Homecoming parade is Monday, October 9th, 5 o'clock. Meeting at Buffalo Soldier Field and coming through town. And homecoming week is that week. The homecoming game on Friday night, the following.
Okay, thank you.
Exciting times.
Thank you.
Thank you. morning, like 7 o'clock tomorrow morning or something, so.
Next on the agenda, we'll approve the minutes that were taken on September the 5th, 2017.
Motion?
Motion by trustee Howard, second by trustee Livesey.
Yep.
Approve the minutes on September 5th, 2017. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Next, we have a training request for Christina Stradley, our account clerk, to attend the retirement seminar October the 4th from 9 to 3 in Harrison, New York. There's no cost for the seminar, but a request for mileage reimbursement.
Make a motion.
Motion by trustee Livesey, seconded by trustee Ramus. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Next, we have a training request for the village clerk and the account clerk to attend records management training course on the 25th of October from 10 to 1 in Gardnerville, New York. Again, no cost for the training, but mileage
So moved.
reimbursement. Motion by trustee Murphy. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by trustee Howard. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Next, we have the appointment of a part-time police officer, Jeff Pitt, at step 1. Jeff was with us for 24 years, retired, and now would like to come back.
I'll make a motion.
Motion by trustee Livesey, seconded by trustee Ramus. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Next, I'd like to open up a public hearing for 2 property maintenance violations, 9 Squeezy and 23 Tobin's.
Just before you start this, the last property maintenance, those are all corrected now, or are they going to be back at the next one?
We'll get a report on those, right, Gina? The ones that have already, the ones for the prior meetings?
Yeah, they take care of them through the building department.
Yeah.
And then we get billed by so they've been done.
Yeah,
And
yeah, we did the bills tonight.
We have some bills that have been submitted for the cleanup.
Right.
doesn't mean they can't come again once they're growing, but for now, they've been taken care of.
So, one of these is overgrowth, and one is the sidewalk overgrowth for 9 Sweezy, and the overgrowth is on the property of 23 Tobin's. Is there anyone here representing or the owner or owners of these properties? Any public comment? You have a resolution before you to,
Mr. Mayor, can I just chime in real quick on that? Just so the village residents know, the notices were mailed out, and I'm going to make note that one was to Las Vegas, and the other was Arizona. Thank you.
What are the odds on that?
good point. Good point. Okay, so you have the resolution before you. Just take a moment to read it. To be honest with you, I'm not feeling well, so you could read it, and then when you're ready to make a motion.
I'm ready to
We'll
make
do them together. Thank you. Motion by trustee Livesey. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by trustee Murphy. May I have roll call on these 2 properties?
Trustee Howard, trustee Livesey,
Aye.
trustee Ramus,
Aye.
trustee Murphy,
Aye.
Mayor D'Onofrio.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you very much. We have bills and claims fiscal year 17-18 of $81,903.43.
I make a motion.
Motion by trustee Howard. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by trustee Murphy. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. You have in your packet, I think, the building report,
Yes.
the police monthly report. One second. That's the new hire. Okay, Charlie, you have anything?
Well, on the building report, a couple things that are noteworthy. There were 9 permit applications and 8 permits issued. 3 certificates of compliance and C of Os issued. 26 advisory violation notices were issued. And 7 municipal searches were completed. There were a total of 80 physical inspections. I mentioned the advisory violation notices and also the municipal searches because over the last couple of weeks, I've gotten some concerns voiced about things like single-room occupancies, and I believe that some of these reflect the building department's review of those situations. So hopefully we'll have more of a report on those coming up. That's it.
One of the items on the back of the police report, you'll see lights that aren't working, street lights. And we've had a problem with Orange and Rockland in getting them to, the police take care of this and getting them to come here. And so the chief and I have spoken that we're going to call the Public Service Commission. If you call the Public Service Commission, they'll be here the next day. Chief, we got to take care of that tomorrow. Public Service Commission on these lights.
Yes, sir.
All right? So, because they need to be on. Some of them are on dead end streets. It doesn't matter really where they are, they need to be lit. That's why they're there. Clytes Avenue for the board and the public, Clytes Avenue and the housing project, the 3 homes that were built up there, and the ditch that they dug across the street on West Street is started last Friday, today, and if it doesn't rain tomorrow, it'll be blacktop. I had to call the building department in and the owner of the property. Only Charlie sitting up here knows what was said in that room. And they immediately began to fix it, so sometimes that's what you have to do. That was way too long to leave a road in that condition. So that'll be fixed this week.
The police revenues are $4,739 this time. The training for gun safety, gun handling, working with violent criminals, and Narcan has been done. There's more to be done. Officer Bailey met with those of us at the center, and we will be announcing when we're going to do more Narcan training. So that's coming up also.
That's great. Before I do board comment, I want to do public comment. Public comment? Yes. Yes.
I just want to talk a little bit about the artificial turf fields.
Let me just make a reference to, on the back of the agenda is the rules for public comment. And the only thing I want to point out is it's 3 minutes, so if you can do that.
Okay, that's
Wow.
quick.
3 minutes is a long time.
Relative. I circulated an email in August called Disturbing Facts About Artificial Turf Fields. And so the contents of that email are on reserve in the library, so I would encourage people to go read my emails in the library. There's a very serious problem. If you Google artificial turf fields, there are plenty of lawsuits. What the school is doing is they're setting up a public health problem for children on these artificial turf fields. They're very expensive to put in. They don't work as advertised. They're supposed to cushion the falls. In fact, they're worse. Concussions have been shown to be worse. I'll talk about the chemicals in them in a second. And then at the other end, you're setting up the school district for lawsuits. And it disturbs me on some level that the superintendent, whoever has been evangelizing these things, doesn't do basic research. They're supposed to model educational behavior to students, and they're not doing basic research. Connecticut, there's a bill in the legislature to have a moratorium to ban these fields entirely. And a toxic, they're advertised as though the chemicals are sealed in. It's rubber tires, it's garbage, it's refuse, it's put under a field. If you put some of the turf divots from there in a glass of water, all these toxic chemicals, benzene, etc., come out. One of the things that I put in the email was a link to an NBC News report that showed that goalies, soccer goalies disproportionately were getting cancer from from playing on these fields. The turf divots get into their scrapes on their legs, they inhale them, they ingest them, they accidentally swallow them. If you go to a chemotherapy ward in New York, they'll say, oh, wow, not another goalie. I mean, it's known that goalies who are on artificial turf fields have these problems. In other school districts, there's parents going to doctors to get notes to exempt kids from playing on them. There's a groundwater problem in these fields. So I could go on. I would urge people to read what I put on reserve in the library. In addition, I understand that one of the school board members invited Patricia Wood, who's the executive director of Grassroots Environmental Education. She's an EPA award-winning advocate for environmental health safety. She's head of the Child Safe School Project. So I would urge parents, administrators, village board members, town board members to go meet with her at 3 p.m. on Saturday at the center to learn more about how dangerous these artificial turf fields are, why this is not only a bad investment, but a negative investment that is deleterious to the health of children. And I think by meeting with Patty, people will also understand a little bit more about other environmental toxins that affect children. She's an expert on this topic. So I would urge the village board to look into this issue. Obviously, recreation is playing on these fields as well. It affects everyone who's playing on them. It's not a good investment. I'll leave it at that and just reemphasize again that when the school board has to be doing its homework on these things, I heard they sort of deferred to a consultant. You can start with a Google search, and from there, it's incumbent on them to research what's going on in other districts, why there are lawsuits on these things, and that when it comes to children, especially, we have to use the precautionary principle, which is when there's evidence of harm. And here I also provided a report from Mount Sinai School of Medicine saying there should be a moratorium on these fields. When there's evidence of harm, you have to take some extra steps in regards to children. So thank you, and I encourage people to read the information.
Thank you. Yes.
With the village regarding all the issues of education. If this bill doesn't pass, if this referendum doesn't go through, and they have to go back, one, they might get a lower rate, and we have to think if they get a lower rate, things might have to be cut. And that usually ends up being sports and the arts, which we can't afford to lose. So the numbers that people hear are high, and those of us who don't have that kind of pocket money, it's scary. Education is expensive. Ignorance costs a lot more.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I have handouts today. That has changed the topic a little bit. Jim Modlin, Village of Highland Falls. First, I'd like to commend the board for the aggressive stance that it appears you're taking in terms of property maintenance. What I'm handing out to you is from the Village of Highland Falls codes on property maintenance. And I would encourage you to also be as aggressive with Main Street. Look at the front of the buildings, look at the vacant buildings, and if it's working with the building inspector or the code enforcement officer that is talked about in the village code. I'm not sure who the code enforcement officer is. I don't know if we have one. I just don't know, but it is something that the village board needs to appoint according to the code. I would encourage you to aggressively, just as aggressively as you are the residents, to go after what we see on Main Street. Mayor, you said something really good about beautification, about how things are starting to look good. If we are going to attract new businesses, if we are going to bring in people from other communities as they're looking at how things are looking, we have to go after the Main Street. We have to go after how things look on Main Street. And the way to start is by enforcing the code as it is written, with also the businesses that we have in the community.
I would encourage you to as I will, but I would encourage you to go to a town board meeting and do the same thing, because it's a
I will.
town, because it's a town board, it's a town-wide building department. Code enforcement, et cetera, is down in that building.
Okay.
And they take their orders from the town board.
Okay, so-
Not from this board.
So, I would suggest that we push on that.
Yeah?
That we meet with the supervisor perhaps, because this is Highland Falls code. And someone has to be enforcing Highland Falls code. And if it's the building department's responsibility,
It is.
then there
No,
needs to be,
not if it is, it is.
then there needs to be a talk, because it's not being done.
I know that.
So-
And I will say this publicly, I've said it on Main Street, and I've never said something before, maybe somebody won't like what I'm gonna say. For me, the biggest mistake I made as mayor before was consolidating the building department. When the building department left this building, which was right across the hall, we lost control. We no longer have any say. So, we'll look at this. I encourage you to go to the town supervisor, I would encourage you to go to the building inspector, I would encourage you to go to the town board. The other thing I would encourage you to do as part of the chamber, is get the chamber involved. This is also a chamber issue. We might be A, but they're B.
Okay?
Okay, this is a chamber issue too.
No, this is not a chamber.
Yeah, well, I disagree.
Yeah, well, then that's fair.
Yeah.
This is village code.
I
If the
understand
chamber
that.
has enforcement responsibility
Mhm.
for village code, then that needs to be a resolution that needs to be talked about.
And the chamber needs to go to the town board, or a town building department too, and put pressure on them.
Chamber has
So
been
the
doing it.
chamber-
I have been doing that. And the town, and the building department.
You've been down there as the chamber?
Yes. And the building department does not report to me, does not report to the Chamber of Commerce, it reports to elected officials.
It reports to the town board.
And according to the building inspector, he is enforcing village code in accordance with village board direction.
No,
So
He's
there's a,
enforcing village code according to village code.
and so who's supervising that? That's what I'm saying. This is not about the building inspector. The building inspector is doing what he needs to be doing. He needs supervision. He
Okay,
needs supervision.
thank you.
Secondly, getting businesses into vacant spaces, it's not going to happen until we get the vacant spaces up to code. I've talked to too many business owners, I've talked to too many potential business owners. It's too difficult to work with the building, it's too difficult to work with the village, it's too difficult to work with the town. And these are the things Chamber of Commerce is not going to be able to fix. This is squarely the responsibility of the village board and of the town board. And I will go to the town board. Any of the town board members are listening, you'll hear the same type of thing. What I hope I don't hear, which I have, is you need to go talk to the village about this. This is the village code. So somewhere, someone needs to take responsibility for enforcing the law.
Okay, and it's also ironic because recently, one was this was Saturday, I've had, over the last week, the second one came on Saturday, came to me as mayor wondering, they want to open up, each one wanted to open up a separate business. So, and they're very enthused about what they see and are hearing. So I hope what they want to do does come to pass, because it's something the community needs, it's something West Point would want. So there's interest out there.
Exactly.
Buildings are selling on Main Street. There's interest. It isn't all doom and gloom.
And I'm not saying that.
And I'm saying to you about the building codes here, and I'm in public saying this, it's the town building department that enforces the codes, not the village board. Now, yes, we can go down there like we have in the past with other things, property maintenance issues, a junk car, something even more serious. But that's where the buck stops.
Okay.
Anyone who says to you, well, go back to the village, they're misleading you.
Okay, so
Okay.
the message is, it is Supervisor Livesey's responsibility and the town board to enforce village codes.
You keep trying to separate village code. It's a town-wide building department. You can't it's a town-wide building department. Don't, you can't, you're separating
understand.
something that should, no, because you're separating it.
Well, there's two separate codes. There's village codes and there's town codes.
It's their job to enforce the village codes. If that's what you're asking, yes.
Yeah, and I just wanted to elaborate on that, Jim, because you said it's the town supervisor that's in charge of enforcing the code. No, it's the building department, but the town supervisor and that board oversees that department. So don't,
So,
I just thought,
so let's,
the one word was just,
let's back
take that
up.
one word out, that's all.
So let's back up.
Yeah.
Do we want to fill storefronts on Main Street? Do we want to get Main Street up to code? If the answer is yes, whether it is the town, whether it's the building department, whether it is you, whether it is whomever, then something needs to be done. I've got a quote here, Joe, from you. Although West Point is the second largest tourist attraction in New York State after Niagara Falls, only about 5% of those tourists patronize our stores. A lot of it has to do with the kind of stores, the variety of stores. This was said, quoted in the New York Times, back in May of 1994, almost 25 years ago. What I'm trying to prevent from happening, and I hope you're all on board with this, 25 years from now, we're still not having this same discussion.
Well, if it's up to this village board, we, in 25 years, I won't be here, but we won't be having this discussion. This village board, this village board, in the short few months, let's remember, it's been, is it 5 months? I'm not even gonna add it up. Is it 5 months? Has done a tremendous amount of work for Main Street. And I know you know that. And with all the beautification that I talked about before, it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy for the folks that did it, and it wasn't easy for me to get it done. And some certain folks know that. That's number one. Number two, we got two grants coming, one from Bill Larkin and one from the county, thanks to Jim DeSalvo, for sidewalks and curbing. Okay, that's for Main Street, not for Putnam, not for Webb Lane, for Main Street. Okay. We're working hard, as you know. I was in your car when we went up to be interviewed, to have an interview for $10 million for Main Street. So I don't know that we can be working any harder. We need to continue to work this hard, and things will happen. And they are happening. Believe me, they are happening. I see it.
And I see.
And the police department is a big part of making things happen. Okay? You can come out here on a Friday night at 9 o'clock at night, 10 o'clock at night. You know, this goes back to some things that you said a couple meetings ago about our meeting that we had with the West Point Spouses Club. Okay? And you're right with the one word you use, perception. But their perception is wrong. Their perception is wrong. You come out here at 9 o'clock at night, 10 o'clock, any night you want. It's not, it's all right. Is it Perfectville? No, it's not Mayberry. It's not Mayberry, okay? But it's okay, and that's thanks to the police department.
Okay, so, to that point, and perceptions. It's not the Spouses Club perception. What was being relayed?
That's what we talked to.
What was being relayed to us? And I would encourage anyone to go back and look at the tape of the August 21st meeting in which I spoke about that. And I was very clear on that. What was being relayed to us from the Spouses Club is what they are being told.
Yeah, I said that.
By what they are being told by parents, by visitors, by folks associated with cadets.
Because it
Where
starts,
that,
Jim.
where that is out there, I don't know.
It starts and it's passed on and it's passed on. It doesn't mean that it's right. We had an hour meeting, and for 30 minutes we talked about the way it used to be. Okay, wait a minute. No, wait a minute. The way it used to be. Listen, the way it used to be, there were 3 women's dress shops, there were 2 men's clothing shops, I remember this, there were 2 jewelry shops, 2. There were 2 bakeries, there was a 5 and dime. That's not coming back, but yet we talked about it for a half hour. You gotta get past that. The 2 jewelry shops aren't coming back. 3 women's dress shops aren't coming back. So we have to reinvent ourselves to something different than it was when I was a kid, which was a long time ago. And this board is going to do it. If we have to adopt new laws, there's going to be trees on the sidewalk. There's going to be new sidewalks. There's going to be new curbing. There's going to be, as best the business people want to, put tables and chairs and umbrellas out. Can you not see this? Look at the beautification that I spoke about 3 times tonight. Can you not see this happening? I can. And we don't sit here and do nothing about it. We make it happen. We make it happen. It's not going to happen overnight, but it's not going to take your 25 years that you mentioned.
I hope not, because we've been talking.
I hope not either.
We obviously, the community has been talking about this for 25 years. And you just look around and you see what has been accomplished over the last 25 years. We
And
don't
there's many
want to
reasons,
repeat
and there's
that.
many reasons for that.
And
9/11 didn't help, Lady Cliff left didn't help.
Yes.
The tourists now, they corral them over at the old Lady Cliff property. They're not free to walk. They come up on a bus, they keep them together.
We need to get past excuses.
We need, no, they're not
and
excuses,
make-
they're
and make
facts. You
things
need to
happen.
go to West Point and make them, they want, you don't think so? West Point doesn't have a play in this?
West Point is more than willing to help. We've got to help ourselves.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Don't blame others.
If-
I'm not blaming others, I'm
Wait
stating
a second,
facts. And you should pass the buck around a little bit more than it's up here.
It's
I'm looking at
really weird
codes,
for me
and I'm looking for
to
someone
defend the
to
building
enforce
department,
codes.
but
Go ahead.
before I go to the building department, I have to say that if you talk to people in planning in this county, they will refer to West Point as a fortress economy. Once tourists go in the gate, they're locked in there. It's gotten even more extreme in the fact that the 5-star and the Balfour Beatty housing now rent to civilians, and they pay no property tax. So, we've got a very uneven playing field here, and there have been occasions, there used to be a gentleman's agreement that if the village offered McDonald's, the academy wouldn't. Well, now that's gotten around by having Burger King instead of McDonald's. It's not exactly
We open up a
the
deli,
same.
they have Subway.
So
We open up a florist, they have a florist.
it is tough for us to capture those tourist dollars. And I do think that the more attractive the village street becomes, maybe we will have opportunities to, at least on weekends, get some tourist traffic and tourist-related businesses, whether or not it's an antiques mall with a lot of small booths, things that play to the tourist as opposed to residents. But we are working on trying to get there. And again, I'm probably the person that the building department least wants to see come through the door because I am the new liaison. And usually when I go down there, I'm there to complain about something. But if you look at their reports, they are trying to be responsive. The 80 physical inspections for this past month, those are inspections in the village, not the town. Admittedly, the town budget pays their 2 or actually 3 salaries in that department. So, yeah, if it's a competition, maybe the town urgency might get taken care of first. But I do firmly believe that our building department is trying harder to do the inspections in combination with the police. If the police notice what they feel is an illegal, like single-room occupancy, they can tell the building inspector, and according to this report, it's being followed up.
How many of those are vacant businesses?
Vacant business, I will.
That's my point, Charlie, is again, everything is good. As I said, I'm commending the board, commending the building department. I'm going at looking at residences. We need to have the same energy on Main Street.
Okay.
We need to have the same energy on the vacancies.
I will.
On West Point, all the things you mentioned are open to the public.
I got 3 minutes.
It's up to the public to do that.
Thank you.
And one last thing, I understand there were some comments about the Chamber of Commerce, a metric being made that not very many businesses attend the meeting. I personally disagree with that being any kind of effective metric. What I look at is what the businesses are doing for the community. I look at what they did for all the different activities that the community has had. The Art Walk, you mentioned the Art Walk, the Answer to Cancer, the Chalk Fest, which by the way, Kathy DeGoff and several others did an outstanding job with that. So I look at the involvement that the businesses have in the community.
Okay.
I've also obviously touched on a raw nerve as far as enforcing codes with the Main Street businesses and vacant properties. So if that is a raw nerve for some reason, that needs to be investigated and needs to be looked at.
Thank you. Anyone? I got it. Jim, I
understand.
no, wait a minute. Wait, I allowed 3 minutes, and
I
then
know.
once and we had 10.
Okay, I
Okay,
apologize.
no, that's okay.
I would like
Is
to
there
I'd like to just acknowledge Barbara.
Okay.
And I think the community owes Barbara Minetti a tremendous thank you for the $500,000 grant that I think you're all looking at and working at. And I think
Thank
we
you.
owe her a big applause, a big thank you, and we need to give her a lot of respect.
Okay, thank you.
So thank you so much.
Is there anyone else? Yeah.
Olga Anderson. I work on the Clean Energy Communities Initiatives with the EDC. And one of the things that we look at is we have some grants for electric vehicle charging stations. I know you were looking at a New York State tourism grant relative to that. And I wonder if you could give me an update on...
Well, the charging, the electric charging station that we're getting,
Are we getting it? I mean,
Yeah.
it's a given?
well, we met with the contractor that was hired, I guess, by the state
Okay.
for the location. Our highway superintendent was there to knows where to put the concrete base. I
So
don't know it
what's
any
the-
other way.
Okay, I wasn't aware that the project had been moving along, so
Yeah.
what is next? Because
Well, I'll find out exactly what's next, and if you want to stop in, I can,
Yeah.
give me a day or two and stop in.
Sure, well, there's a new grant cycle opened up with another New York State office, and we want to be able to pursue that if we're not going to, complete this project. So-
Well, I want to guarantee you that we are, but I don't know why you're saying it that way,
Well, because we've been asked by
Gina, we're on,
tourism.
you've been asked by who?
The tourism folks who brought this to our attention, that the
I'll have an
installation, there's an installation deadline by the end of the year.
I'll have an
So,
update,
yeah.
I'll have an update on the charging station that we're talking about.
That you've been pursuing?
Yeah.
Yes. All right, so I'll stop by
Give me
the
2
office.
days and I'll
Okay,
have it.
very good, thank you.
Anyone, yes?
Updates and one concern. First of all, I would like to thank Olga. She's really stepped up to the plate in the EDC with the Solarize program. She's taken on concerns about green and climate smart living. And she went with me to the Mid-Hudson Regional public meeting where the board.
3 minutes.
All right.
Don't waste, don't.
Okay, all right, thank you, Olga. Okay, thank you, Joe. Secondly, at that Mid-Hudson Regional Board meeting, they said that there still is no announcement on the DRI grant. It will be made in the next several weeks. Now, why in the world it's taking so long, I cannot answer.
So let's say what that is, because DRI means nothing to most people.
I'm
That's
sorry.
the $10 million grant that
Yes.
was put in for Main Street.
Right.
That we went to Marist College to have an interview because we were one of the finalists.
Okay.
So
right.
we're still in the running.
Yes, we are still in the running.
You get 30 seconds more for that.
Thank you, okay. Also, at that meeting, it's wonderful for networking. 2 water issues. One, I'll go with the one at the Mid-Hudson Regional. I met very briefly with Jamie Ethier, who's our DEC overall head, who's going to be looking at the marina issues, anything having to do with environmental conservation and water. And he was actually having a meeting with Andrew Pack it's a charitable foundation. I actually donate to them, the Nature Conservancy. They are looking for 4 communities in the Mid-Hudson region. They have 3, and they're looking for a 4th. So I mentioned to them what we had put in the Downtown Revitalization Initiative about Highlands Brook, restoration, possible eco park, and the marina. And he said, you've got it, I will have a workshop with you. I can bring my people to your village and we'll explore what, if you want, if you can, want to be our fourth community. And it's timely. Right now, I briefly spoke to Merv from Chop Fest, and he's a water liaison, said, you know, what I'd like to do with this is call Andrew Peck and find out a little more and then set up a meeting.
What will it give us, possible?
Funding for huge water,
Oh, okay.
anything,
Okay.
he is the
We're into that.
fresh water project manager.
We're into that. Okay, thank you.
And then Wednesday, water also, I'm going to, it's called the Water Resources Group. This is being sponsored by the Cornell Institute on Water through the DEC. So this is also DEC. In New Paltz at the DEC office, 10 to 12. And the reason I go to these is to learn, get our name out there, find out what our opportunities are and resources are. This is an initial conversation, and I'm going to be looking at, of course, grant opportunities and that sort of thing. But it's anything from water safety, water and future development, recreation, So I'll be doing that. Okay, I have to throw this in, I don't know how many seconds I have. I would love to be the global visionary for this village, and this town, actually. I have the talent, I have the skill to do it. We're talking about needing to create our identity, our brand, our placemaking. The state calls it a place to live, work, and play. With West Point building this big, huge, new visitor center with facilities overlooking the river, that's going to detract from our Main Street even more.
That's the problem.
We have to help ourselves come up with an identity and recreate. So we were talking about the school investing in itself. We have to do that too. And it takes vision, it takes putting boots on the ground. So I'm excited. That's why I keep volunteering. Okay.
Lastly?
Okay, I got actually two more things. I'm trying to hurry. Here's my concern at the Mid-Hudson Regional Economic Development Corporation. And this was kind of a little prod. I heard it very loudly and clearly. The part of the meeting was 2017 metrics. Part of it was voting on budgets for huge big ticket items for 2018. Okay, the announcement, very loudly and clearly, is that 90% of 2017 awards are underway. Our Restore New York is in the 10%. So they're concerned, they want us to be partners. They want to, the Mid-Hudson region wants to be designated as a top-tier region. There are 10 regions in the Empire State Development Corporation, and they vie competitively for grant money throughout the state from the Department of State. Okay, depending on performance, it was pointed out that it's a difference of hundreds of millions of dollars of grant money to the Mid-Hudson region versus another region. So they want awardees to be partners in attaining top tier status. So if it's okay, Mayor Joe, if I could meet with you and we just go over, specifically where things are, so we can make sure this is ready to roll when the weather's good in the spring.
Yes, we can do that.
Yeah.
Let's do it soon.
Okay, we'll do that.
And we'll get on the phone and we'll call the project manager, Arturo Rodriguez. I can tell you that I speak to him once a month.
Okay.
Right now, I know he's waiting, for which we gave our new engineer, the paperwork
Good.
from the grant, because the engineer has to come up with a scope of work and a budget. That's the next thing that's on our plate to give the state,
Okay.
all right?
We can talk about that, and then also, I know we can get ourselves on the state level, Empire State Development Corporation monthly agenda. We have to go before a hearing. It's a formality, but we have to do it. And then a month later, we have to appear again and.
Yeah, that's, you and I we had spoken about this a few months ago. You had said that at that time that our two public hearings were April and May of 2017. But Arturo, talking to Arturo, we were not ready, we were nowhere near that.
Okay.
Nowhere near a public hearing. So he said, no, don't come up. And so I'm hoping, he didn't say this, I'm hoping it's this April, May. And then there's going to be two public hearings sometime after the winter.
It'll have to be before that, hopefully January and February, so we can be ready to
All right.
put.
So,
Okay.
so I think that we're on it, and I know that, well, I think that we're on it, and I can only tell you that the village board's in favor of the project.
Okay, and
You
my last point then, if we can meet just to make sure we've got all
Absolutely,
our
absolutely.
notes together.
Absolutely.
That'd be great. And then, last point, I don't have, service, of course, through the internet, but I think there is a new round of Restore New York open now. If we want to go for it, the criteria is similar. We can make sure we don't have the engineering issue or whatever. Same funding up to $500,000. A letter of intent goes in. It's just a one-page short description, and then you follow up.
Well, let's talk about that when you come, because I had some emails sent to me too, and I thought, what I had received anyway, I thought it was a new round of Restore.
Yes.
But what I received wasn't. It was still talking about this one. So let's see.
Double check.
Let's see.
Okay. I thought I saw an October.
Yeah, let's see. Let's see.
All right.
Thank you so much. Bert?
Yeah. The Board of Education, at the last meeting I attended, when they were talking about the turf, they had both sides of the story. They're doing the research. My barber, who's up the block here, there was an issue of the barber pole. You remember
Yes,
this?
yes.
I would like to see the building inspectors, when we have new businesses come into this village, be a little more open. Is that an old law that's on the books? I mean, a barber shop can't have.
Well,
outside.
Brian, what he had done, what he had,
I don't get it.
with research, I didn't understand it either. There's nothing, there's a lot of things that are nice in a small community, and a barber pole is one of them, outside. But the building department said that it stuck out too far. So, in checking with the building department, I forget what they said. I'm probably not gonna be correct on my, maybe you know this, I don't know if you know this top of your head, but it's like 16 inches. It was so many inches. So I went down with a ruler and went into the barber shop and measured it from the back, not just the casing of the pole, but from the back, and it was under 12. So I didn't understand what that was all about. Didn't we speak about
You
this?
asked me if it was a sign, and I said.
Yeah, they said it was a sign, and maybe we even disagreed. To me, it's not a sign, but
I said that it's the building inspector's determination as to whether it's a sign or not. And if he has decided it's a sign
Yeah.
and has applied it,
yeah,
you know,
that's what happened.
equally among all barber shops or all extensions of anything out in front, then, you know, that.
I thought we talked about that.
I also said that the village board can change that.
And if that's I know that, not if that's a fact, because that is a fact we just said, but if the reason is that it's sticking out too far, which I was told by the owner and the building department, then this board will look at that.
Yeah, I mean, you can certainly define, you know, the only thing you're gonna make sure about is that it's not
obstructing the sidewalk,
Right.
they're gonna hit somebody in the
No, right,
face.
right.
But it's like is a cigar,
Or a cigar store in
a
Well,
sign.
if you looked at Main Street, there's a lot of things protruding from the front of a store.
So that's something, if the board wants to look at that.
Yeah, we will.
I just think we need to be a little more inviting to new businesses.
Yeah.
I'll say it right off the bat. That's where I get my hair cut. I miss the pole. Is that okay? Next.
Cindy, can you come up?
You can tell it.
I just want to mention something, the military saying is I stand corrected. And at the last meeting, I spoke about the art walk, which has this brochure, and it's beautiful with all the art throughout the community. One of the pieces that was recently put out, I mentioned that the committee from the art walk should not have put it where they put it. And my reasons why, because of, to some this may sound like, why are you even talking about this? But the Native American Indians served a big role in the Hudson Valley here. Not only that, during World War II, many of the Native American Indians were great servicemen. So they definitely deserve the respect that they should be rendered. And again, with the Fort Montgomery battlefield and all of that, I have seen a piece of artwork in a location that just did not click with me at all. So I mentioned at the last meeting that the Art Walk Committee should not have put that there. It's been brought to my attention that this was a privately brought piece to that location. And I apologize for saying that this was the Art Walk part of that committee. However, that does not change my thought. Again, where this piece is on the property owners, I highly respect very, very much. But this piece of artwork, when I look at it, should actually be in a location with definitely getting and receiving the honors that it deserves, with flowers around it, and it should be a place where people actually go to and thank these American Indians for what they have done in the past, and many of them that are still out there today. This is my feelings on this, and again, Cindy, I wanted to make sure that I said that correctly out there to all of them.
Can I say a couple things?
Sure you can, come on up.
We did try to get that piece put in Patriot Park.
Patriot Park, right?
Yes, and we did go to the town board and we did talk to them about ideas about where they would like to put it, possibly in Fort Montgomery. And we just couldn't come to any consensus. And Ed McElroy got, I think, just tired of waiting. And he wanted to put it somewhere. He talked about putting it in another town completely. And he had a relationship with the supermarket and he was able to work something out and put it there. Hence, this is why having something like Collaborative Concepts is a good idea because they professionally put the pieces where they feel they should go. I agree. I don't care for that spot for it either. But we had nothing to do with it. The chamber had nothing to do with it. And so, anyway. Can I say one more thing? This whole thing with West Point, this really bothers me. This definitely hits home with me. Jim and I are both from the military community. 20 years we spent in the military. We were stationed here, we had a child born here. This adversarial relationship or attitude, if we could just somehow, I don't think it's anybody's fault. I don't think it's West Point's fault. I don't think it's Highland Falls' fault. I think this goes back. There's deep-seated feelings here. I can understand that. However, we're never going to compete with a university. It's the same type of thing. Yes, it's the federal government here, but even a university, you have a small college town. That's what we are. We're a small college town. And we need to build on that. We need to use what they're doing, and we need to just to work together, to try to make our community better because they're here. They're not, if West Point went away tomorrow, would we be better? I don't think so. I mean, they bring a lot here too. And I just think if we could somehow get past this.
Thank you.
And I just want to say, no, you didn't have to see. I just want to say about Main Street and all of that, I agree, Jim and Joe, it absolutely needs to be cleaned up. And we could work together to try to do that. I also, growing up in this community, Joe, you know, many of the stores that are here and were back years ago are still here. And I think what it is, a lot of these businesses that open up in this community, at first they're on a trial. Are they going to make it in Highland Falls or not? And some of these stores that have come in here, I think some of us know to ourselves, I don't know, this is going to be a tough one for the store to try to make it. I think it's what the clique is of the store coming in here and how well it's going to do. I also would like to say, though, with our neighbors, and I'm going to call them our neighbors, our good neighbors up at West Point up there, it's an honor. It's an honor to have West Point up there. To have this, all the sports and everything else that's going on next to us here. Hey, we welcome them. I don't want anyone from West Point to think that we're not, that there's bad talk about West Point. I love West Point. I think the football team on their game, they beat Ohio State. But you know, we'll get through this, and I think with the board working together and working with the town, we'll get through this and we'll build it up.
Thank you. Yeah, Charlie?
Well, in defense of West Point, the new garrison commander, and especially his deputy, who we will hope to have for a number of years, have been much more responsive than I've encountered in the 25 years I've been here. And I do think that, well, the problems I have with the academy are coming out of Washington. They should be paying a payment in lieu of taxes on hotels that are being run and profited through by foreign companies. It's not even U.S. companies. So I think there's room for some assistance from the federal government on that score.
Jim?
Yeah, I got a couple of things. I was out at no cost to the village residents, a municipal forum on emergency responses. It was about resiliency. In Bryan, they had a wonderful thing out there, O&R, and I spoke with the people at O&R, and this is about learning for natural gas. And they have these coloring books. If you contact them, they can get them to the center. And then there's some other small pamphlets in there that the adults that come to the center about natural gas. So that's a great positive thing, a great paint book for the younger kids. It's a good teaching tool. Some other things that they talked about out there was how, and it was retired Lieutenant General Russell Honore. He was down at the relief efforts in Louisiana, and in more particular, he talked about how when he came up here, he sees some of the trees that have holes punched through them where the power lines go through. And he says, that's a problem waiting to happen. But he was a great speaker, and I spoke with a few other people out at O&R, and they're going to look at, when they do go in to trim the trees, maybe revising how it's done. We all get it in our O&R bills, how they show how they trim the trees. So they're going to look into possibly getting in there and revising that. So that was a great little seminar, and it was well attended by many law enforcement and emergency responders, not only in our county, but they came from New Jersey as well. I also attended a erosion control class about some of the stormwater management that goes on. Then I will touch base with the planning board on that.
I brought a lot to the table when I was there, and Eric accepts the information that I give him with open arms, and I'm glad that he's the chair down there. Also, I did an industrial wastewater seminar, and I'm gonna share that with Johnny Jones, which was great. I spoke briefly with Assemblyman Skoufis's office, and so we're looking on the status of some of the grants that are out there, i.e. one of the ones that Barbara Minetti worked on. So he's going to get back in touch with me on that. I had West Street paving that a lot of people have been coming up and stopping by my house when they're getting tomatoes. But we're taking care of that, so that's great. But there is one thing that I brought up when I first got on the board, and there's a hydrant on the corner of South Street and Cousins Avenue, and it's been out of service for years. And I was hoping that maybe Merv, you could talk with Kevin, please, about that, and Gary, because they work with that jointly to get that done. I don't know if we need to order a hydrant. I don't know what the size is, and maybe that's what the holdup is. But if you could ask them about that, that'd be great. And then one other quick thing. Senator Larkin sends this out along with some of our other assembly people up at the state level. This talks about getting into the outdoors. This is about bird hunting, small game, but just getting kids outdoors. Getting them off of their little computers, their cell phones, and experiencing nature. The Federation, Orange County Federation, is in conjunction with the New York State DEC having a hunt out at Stewart Airport, and it's on September 24th. It's open to children. It's a free day out there. We will be offering lunch, little goodie bags, and also breakfast. So if you know any kids that would like to get out there and learn about getting out into the great outdoors, feel free to please contact me on that.
Hunt what?
Pheasants. We're going to be putting out lots of birds. You don't have to go to the store to get chicken, Joe. You know, you can get it right out there in the woods. But I know. But anyway, so with the Federation, we also had a dinner where we had 225 people come, but we honored the veterans. And we bought tickets for 55 veterans to come out and have dinner and just get together. So there's a lot going on out there that we can get the children involved in. Sometimes we just have to go outside the community a little bit. But if any kids want to learn about how to tie a knot fishing, just to get out in the woods to identify trees, or, you know, if it's a red squirrel or a gray squirrel, I would be more than willing to help. That's all I got, Joe.
Okay, we'll end on that. Take a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion.
Motion by trustee Livesey.
Second.
Seconded by the rest of the board. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Progressive contract. Tune in.